What are the important components of .NET Framework? Here is the diagram which shows the main components of the .NET Framework. Now, while coding for any application, we need not to bother about these components because these are automatically managed by the .NET Framework. But as a theory, we should have some basic idea what are these components and what they do. Let's see what they do. First, the most important one is CLR. It stands for Common Language Runtime. First point about CLR is CLR manages the execution of programs, for example, operations like memory management, security checks, etc. etc. Second point is CLR provides execution of managed code only. What is managed code? Code written in any .NET supported language such as C#, VB.NET or F# is called managed code. Then what is the unmanaged code then? For example, Java language is not supported by .NET Framework and that is unmanaged code. If you try to copy paste some Java code in Visual Studio, then it will not compile it because it is not supported by the CLR. I know you will never do it, but this is just for information, okay? Next important component of .NET Framework is CTS. CTS stands for Common Type System. CTS basically is a set of rules that defines how types are defined, used and managed in the .NET Framework. Types like integer, string, double managed by CTS only, okay? Next important component is CLS. CLS stands for Common Language Specification. CLS is a subset of CTS. It defines a set of rules that every language must follow which runs under .NET Framework. The benefits of the CTS and CLS both is if you create same program logic in different .NET languages, okay, then the compiler will generate the same DLL for them, okay. Other example is suppose you created two projects, one is in VB.NET and another in C#. Now you want to use one project as a reference in another. Then it will work seamlessly because both languages are .NET Framework supported. And CLS CTS job is to make sure that the two languages projects can interact with each other. Got it? Now the next important component of .NET Framework is FCL. FCL stands for Framework Class Libraries. FCL is the collection of classes, namespaces, interfaces, and value types that are used for .NET applications. For example, you create your application and there we use some common classes like string, ArrayList, list classes, right? These are common classes we used in our project. These are nothing but the framework class libraries. We also call them sometimes base class libraries. But there is a small difference between FCL and BCL. BCL is actually a subset of FCL. Therefore, some classes which are in FCL are not the part of the BCL. But all the classes of BCL are the part of FCL. So FCL is at high level, okay? Now in the diagram, you can also see the types of project we can create in .NET Framework here, like ADO.NET, ASP.NET, Windows Form, etc. etc. Okay, these are the types of project we can create in .NET Framework. And at the top of the diagram, you can see the types of languages supported by the .NET Framework: VB.NET, C#, J#, and many more. In 80% of the project, we use C# only. But yes, there are other languages also there. Alright, so that is the brief idea about all the components of the .NET Framework. What is an assembly? What are the different types of assembly in .NET? Let's see the definition first. Assembly is unit of deployment like exe or a DLL. What does it mean? When you create your code and you build the solution, like your project, you build it, then the .NET Framework convert your code into intermediate language. And that intermediate language is placed inside the assembly. And you can also say DLL also, which you can find inside the bin folder of your project. That is assembly, okay? Now there are three types of assembly. First one is private assembly. A private assembly can be used by a single application only, okay? It is not accessible outside. So all the projects you create will by default create private assembly for you. For example, you created two projects inside one solution and then you want to add assembly 1 project to assembly 2 project. Then it is possible because these all are private assembly and inside the same solution. Now the second type of the assembly is public or shared assembly. They are same things, okay? Shared assemblies are usually libraries of code which multiple applications can use. It is registered in the global assembly cache. For example, you created one class library, okay, which is like a reusable component for not just yours, but for other outside projects also, okay. Then you will register your assembly class library in global assembly cache, and then it will be converted to public or shared assembly. Then there is a process to register the assembly which I will discuss in later questions, okay. So now the next assembly is satellite assembly. A satellite assembly is defined as an assembly with resources only, no executable code, okay. If you ever worked on an application which supports multiple languages, then you might be aware about this .resx files, okay. This is one example of satellite assembly. These files are not executable codes, remember. These are just resources only, and they are called satellite assemblies. So this is all about the basics of assemblies and the types of assemblies. What is GAC? If you know about public or shared assembly, then you must be have heard about GAC also. Here are 3 points which we should know about GAC. GAC stands for Global Assembly Cache. Second point, GAC is the place where public assemblies are stored, okay. Then third point, private assembly can be converted into public assembly by adding them in the GAC using GAC util tool. So this is the tool with the help of which you can add one assembly as a public assembly, okay. I think this is enough information about GAC. What is reflection? Let's see the definition first. Reflection is the ability of a code to access the metadata of the assembly during runtime. Now, what is metadata? Metadata is information about data. For example, if book is a data, okay, all the content inside the book is a data, then title, author name, these are metadata because this is the information about the book, okay. So now the question is, when there is a requirement to write the code using reflection, okay, when we have to write the code. So one example is, suppose you have to check the version of your application assembly at runtime. Then you can write the reflection code like this. Here you can see we are using the assembly class of the system.reflection namespace. Okay, this assembly class belongs to system.reflection namespace. Here first we are getting the assembly details by calling the getExecuting assembly method, and then from this assembly object we will get the name of the assembly. And then from the assembly name object we will finally get the version of this assembly, current assembly. So the reflection concept is used to extract the information about the assembly at the runtime, okay. This is what you will run the application, and then this assembly information you are getting. Now the other popular class of the system.reflection namespace is type class. This type class is used to get the information about the methods we have used in our application, or you can say assembly. So if you will pass a method as the parameter as a string format, then we can get all the details of that method, basically the type we can get, okay. So this is the answer of this question. What are serialization and deserialization? What are the types of serialization? Very important question, okay. Let's see the definition of the serialization first. Serialization is the process of converting an object into a format that can be stored, transmitted, or reconstructed later. For example, you create objects of the classes, right? Now you want to pass the object to other applications outside your project. So how can you do that? You can pass in your project, but outside in other application, how can you pass the object? Now you cannot pass it directly. For that, you will use serialization to first convert the object into bytes and then save it in database memory or file storage like this. Or you can also like directly transfer the bytes to the other application. Okay. Now we have mostly three types of serialization: binary serialization, XML serialization, and JSON serialization. Binary means like convert object to bytes. XML serialization means converting object to XML. And nowadays the most used is JSON serialization, which means like this application 1 converting object to JSON format with the help of serialization first, and then send this JSON to some other application 2 through the network, and in that application 2 with the help of the deserialization convert the JSON back into the object format, and then that object you can use in application 2, right? So deserialization is the process of converting serialized data such as binary, XML, JSON data back into the object. Now the thing is when to use serialization. So as I said, it is mostly used in web APIs to convert class objects into JSON string, and like deserialization used back to convert JSON into object format. Like this, you can see we are creating one object of employee class, setting the properties, and then with the help of this JSON convert class, we are and serialize object method, we are converting the object back into the JSON format. So we are converting the object to JSON format, which then we printed, and then we are getting this as the output. Now sending this the object in network is difficult, but this JSON string you can easily transferable in any network. Okay, so this is the whole idea about the serialization. What is meant by globalization and localization? These two are very related terms and there is some confusion sometimes about them. So let's clear that confusion today. So let's see the globalization first. Globalization is the process of designing and developing a software product that can support different cultures and regions of the world. In short, you can say like multiple language support. Okay. For example, you just started developing an application. Now this application you want to support multiple languages in the world. Then you will do globalization. Okay. Now what is localization then? So localization is the process of adapting a globalized application to a particular culture local. Okay, so let me explain. For example, after you have created one application that follow globalization because that is supporting multiple languages. Like this, you can see here one application is supporting 6 languages. All right, that is globalization. Now 1 year later, your manager asks you to add one more language like Japanese in this list. So then what you will do? Then you will do localization of this globalized application for a particular language. So this is the localization. So globalization is like creating application for supporting multiple languages, and localization is like then allow it to support one more language. So related terms but slightly different meanings are they have. What are Windows services? Let's see the definition first. Windows service is a computer program that runs in the background to execute some tasks. For example, in your Windows machine you can run this command services.msc and you can see the Windows services like this. These are the Windows services only which are created by Microsoft to support the Windows operating system. Like, okay, your operating systems are supported by these Windows services. Now you can also create a Windows services for your application, for your project, and then you can add here. So for example, you want to set one reminder service which will send automated emails to your customers in every 1 hour. For that, you will create one Windows service from your like Visual Studio. That is, you have to select Windows Service project and add the logic and add the business logic, like whatever email or whatever you want to do in that service, and then you will add that service here. Okay, then that service will be visible here. Mostly servers are used for that purpose, not these local computers are not the best things for them. Now few more things about window services are like window services can be started automatically or manually. Automatically means you can set the timings. Okay, so every within 3 hours the service will run and the service will send the emails. Okay, or you can also manually pause, stop and restart these window services. So great, that is the brief idea about the window services you have now.